Hello and welcome back to the DP World Tour Picks and Bets show on Mayo Media Network. As you'll see, I am hosting this week and I'm joined by Ryan Baroff. Ryan, hello.
Tom, good to see you, man. Happy to be back and hopefully fill some big shoes this week.
Yeah, it's been going well this year, which is weird because it's week to week, like the confidence levels haven't been. I mean, they have been when we got the winners in, right? But like the actual research time, I feel like it's got harder to actually pick a winner. But by the same token, it's worked out for us. So I feel like we've had a good amount of fortune along the way.
Yeah, I think we've had a lot of on-brand winners. I mean, obviously you and Sky have been doing great. Feels like we've had a lot of community wins of late. That Guido one was pretty fun a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, exactly that. I mean, look, it's always good when you get your favourites on there as well. But this is probably the first time, I guess, there's going to be a lot of people that are really interested in the DP World Tour because it's a co-sanctioned event with the PGA Tour. It's the Genesis Scottish Open. I guess the last few weeks, Ryan, have been pretty DP World Tourish, I guess, in the sense. Although you and Ferguson did pretty well closing out yesterday, but we had an all-timer with McKibben getting into that playoff with Marcel Siem. Any sort of notes that you've taken from the DP World Tour over the last couple of weeks that have led you to anything in this week, or is it just focused on as a sole individual event?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we're due for a long shot winner. It's been a lot of the guys who we expected, right? Like I guess Ferguson was a little deeper, but he's been playing well the last couple of weeks. I think I think he's been tipped pretty recently, but obviously Guido played well. Talk about the Soderberg thing later. He obviously should have won.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, all these top guys, Tom McKibben, who you've kind of mentioned, who will be on the PGA Tour next year. And then I think the return of guys like Laurie Cantor, Bernd Wiesberger. We saw Thomas Peters last week. Patrick Reed was up there. Like it's good to see those guys back. And I just feel like the guys who we expect to play well have played well.
Yeah, it has been that, right? And I think like last week, I kind of went with the notion of just going with Fox and Peters. And I never do that. I never go to kind of favourites, but I just felt it felt like we were in the position where we just take those guys, and it didn't work out. I mean, as we kind of talked about off air, like Peters came good every 9 holes or so. Like he just went for on little streaks, right? And he made 20 birdies on the week, and didn't. To be honest, I actually thought he would have made the most birdies with the way he was playing. I think probably when you consider how many eagles he would have made as well. I'm assuming he must have made the most eagles. He didn't. He was the second in eagles where he made 2. Mathis Bassard made 3. If anyone was interested in there last week.
Oh, that guy eagled 18 on Sunday and knocked my guy Hoshino from 5th to 6th place. That hurt.
We don't like Mathis Bassard on this show. I like it. Good. Yeah, it's a fun thing to have Cantor, Peters, Wiesberger back. We've had the breakthrough win with Cantor now. Wiesberger feels like he's due. Maybe we'll come on to that in a little while here. But let's look at the top of the board. Let's look at the fact that Rory comes back as the plus 750 favourite, which is no surprise. No Scotty Scheffler, you automatically put him in. Coming off that break, though, since the US Open, Xander Schauffele plus 850, Colin Morikawa plus 14, Ludwig Aberg 18s, Tommy Fleetwood, Victor Hovland 22s, and then it's Tom Kim at 25 to 1. First of all, I guess, Ryan, is Rory McIlroy just going to come back and win straight away?
You cut out for a minute there. Maybe I cut out. Were you asking about Rory?
Yeah. So I said, first thing to think about is, do we think that Rory is just going to come back and win straight away? Is this kind of vengeance tour going to start this week?
Look, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. One of the best players in the field, obviously one of the best links players in the field. Always seems to elevate his game a little bit when he goes back to Europe. Doesn't matter if it's here, if it's out in Dubai. He just very comfortable playing here. I think he had a lot more to prove last year than he does this year. I think what he has to prove this year is going to be next week. Obviously, he needs to prove it in a major. I'm not going to bet him this week, but if I had to pick from kind of those names that you mentioned at the top, I would go there before I went to Xander or Colin or Aberg or anyone like that.
Yeah, look, I could very much see the the Rory back-to-back thing happening this week. We thought it was going to happen last year. They put a plaque down for Rory McIlroy's shot from 202 yards or whatever it was last year with a 2-iron. Look, an incredible shot. And I think that the point you make there, Ryan, is key. Like, he had so much to prove even in a regular event last year than he does this year. It is purely now majors only. We know he can get the wins. You know, he's got the fantastic win at Quail already on the season, and we're not worried about that. He's won the Middle East. We're not worried about him winning. We're worried about him winning majors. And I guess you would feel more confident if he does win, just based on the fact he's had that kind of few weeks break. But I don't know. Like, it doesn't seem to ever transpire that way, does it? We always feel like the hype train starts as soon as he wins the week before, and it doesn't seem to lead into anything for him. So it's going to be a really interesting case study to see what Rory does this week, I think.
Yeah, you know, and it's kind of hard for him because I feel like people are just waiting on the major and overlooking just how well and how consistently he's played. Like, he won at Wells Fargo not too long ago. That's a big win. Obviously, he should have won the U.S. Open, finished second. Yeah, he's playing great. It would not surprise me, but have to imagine he is looking forward to next week.
Yeah, I think it's prep work. Obviously, Xander did win here. That was when he was on that hot run. He's been incredible this year, and there's no denying that he's, you know, made the turn, I guess. He's been 10th, 1st, and 42nd in 3 starts here. The 42nd obviously coming when he was defending champion, but he was better placed inside the top 20 going into Sunday last year as well. Do we worry about him when we're trying to take these guys on, or do we just hope that the wins can't keep stacking up for sure?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's been playing great, like what you said. He's raised his floor even further. Like, if he's not in the top 8 or 10 on Sunday, I'd be shocked. But again, just not a lot of interest in betting him at like 8-1. He also is now at that point in his career where obviously majors are the only thing probably that he cares about. Got the Olympics coming up as well. So probably a bit of a look ahead spot for Xander too.
Agree. With the fear of not just going one by one on the odds board, any comments on Colin or Ludwig before we move on?
No, I mean, Ludwig can play well anywhere. Would not shock me. He's probably the type of guy who I would start my DraftKings lineups with this week, more than anything. Still a little concerned about the health. Just doesn't seem to be 100% back to himself yet. So very interested to see how he plays here and, of course, next week.
It's actually been really surprising how well he's played with that injury, right? Like, it's not something to be taken lightly. He was 12th going into the final round of Travelers. He was 36th hole leader at the US Open, 5th going into the final round, 5th at Memorial. He does still have that blow-up shot anyway, even with the... I don't think there's anyone that bounces back better from a triple bogey than Ludwig Aberg, but that's going to probably last, I don't know, a season or two before there starts to be some scar tissue. But yeah, I think from an injury standpoint, I would just steer away from an outright betting perspective. But talk to us about why Tommy Fleetwood is going to kick off your card.
Why is Tommy not going to kick off the card, right?
That's the real question.
Would be very fitting for him to get his first PGA Tour win in Scotland, right? Makes a lot of sense. But look, he hasn't necessarily been close to a win, right? But just been very consistent the last month in really good fields, right? Tied for 21st in Canada, top 20 at the Memorial, top 20 at the US Open, top 15 at the Travelers, just all striking well. Also seems to be putting much better this year than he has in years past, which is a really good sign. And then obviously one of the best links players in the world, and absolutely loves this course. He's gone 2nd, 26th, 4th, 6th in his 4 appearances here. If it's going to happen for Tommy, it's going to happen in an event like this. Absolutely loving this week. Found a 28-1 this morning on FanDuel. That is win only, but you know, that's a very good number for him here.
It is. That is a good number. If it was a 22-1 win only, I'd be a little bit more concerned, obviously, but the 28-1 is huge. The putting, as you say, is really encouraging to see him consistently getting strokes on the greens, right? And I think I was really quite bullish on him for the US Open. I'm not in terms of Tommy Fleetwood generally. And he was disappointing. He finished 16th, but it was more to do with the final round, right? But those irons that he hit at the Travelers is encouraging. The off the tee game was great. Around the green, he's going to pick up at any point. Like, that's not something he's usually struggling with, right? And as you said, absolutely loves Scotland. He's one of 2 players that's finished inside the top 10 both times since it's been the co-sanctioned event. 4th and 6th, he obviously lost in the playoff on his debut here as well. to Aaron Rye. So he's had a phenomenal record here. I do get it. I think I'm just kind of, I don't know, beating
tired of Tommy Fleetwood.
Yeah, just picking him up in the major. I mean, I shouldn't be, right? I don't do it too often.
No. The other thing that I've noticed, I guess it's really over the last year and a half, but especially recently, he is hitting so many fairways. He's hitting every fairway.
Yeah.
That's huge for somebody like him because he's not the longest, but he's long enough. He's one of the best iron players in the world. So if he's playing from the fairway, I mean, yeah, I love him this week. So
yeah, and look, if that putting stroke comes, I guess in the world of asterisks, Ryan, winning your first PGA Tour event in Scotland in a co-sanctioned event would be what people will level against Tommy Fleetwood. But that's unfair, right? Like he's well deserving of a PGA Tour. He's probably well deserving of a major win at this point. So it'd be good to see him going into the Open Championship with that kind of good feeling for next week. I'm going to skip over Victor Hovland. I don't have too much to say about him unless you do. And I'm going to go into the first pick for me, which is another Tom in Tom Kim. And that might be a good little theme for us going here.
It will be, yeah.
But Tom Kim is just obvious. Like we just spoke about the fact that Fleetwood is one of only 2 players finished out of the top 10 this course over the last 2 years. Tom Kim is the other, and he's been 3rd and 6th in his 2 starts here. He was actually better placed after the 2nd and 3rd rounds last year. He was in 2nd place as well. And look, he should have won. I don't think there's any getting away from the fact that he should have won the Travelers, right? I was disappointed how he folded in the playoff after working so hard to get there. I think that's just the effect that Scotty Scheffler's having on people, right? Like it's that, I do think there's a case of Scheffler is taking advantage of people melting around him, but that's obviously the asset that he has now is that he's hard to hold off, right? Before that, he was 9th going into the final round of the US Open. He'd finished 4th at the Canadian Open as well. I thought he played decently enough at the Memorial ball striking wise to not really worry about the fact that it's not a great course. And yeah, we know that he walked around on 1 foot for most of the Open Championship and finished 2nd there. There's obviously something about these links courses that he enjoys, and I see no reason to get away from Tom Kim, despite the fact that there'll be a lot of people on him, and obviously the price is coming in at a pretty alarming rate.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like you said, should have won Travelers. I think very underrated was his finish at the RBC Canadian Open, where he went 65, 64 over the weekend, because he had kind of shown that, like, all right, the form was coming back a little bit. He was making cuts. He was finishing like around 25th or 30th, but he just wasn't getting those high-end finishes. Finally, was 4th in Canada, and then obviously he should have won Travelers. Not worried about the miscut last week. That was his 9th week or 10th week in a row. Yeah. It seemed weird that he went there anyways. I think the week off will be great for him, and absolutely loves this golf course. So.
Yeah, and look, what I love to see as well is that the Memorial, where he finished 43rd, he was terrible on the greens. So you don't want anyone to ever be terrible on the greens, but if it's going to happen, have it in a no-cut event, right, where the ball striking is still good. So very encouraged by what Tom Kim's done so far over the last few weeks.
Yeah, absolutely, and has shown links prowess both here and then in very, very bad conditions too last year, might I add. So.
Which we might get. I mean, just looking out of like my window over the last couple of days, I mean, I'm in England as opposed to Scotland, but it's been pretty dreary. So we could get some weather. Interesting thought process that I had just before we came on here is that it is the England versus Netherlands semi-final on Wednesday night, and it could potentially be the European Championship final on Sunday night for England. Well, it's definitely going to be the final, but whether England are in it or not. I wonder if that has any effect on the likes of Fleetwood, Fitzpatrick, one person we're going to talk about in a minute. I feel like they're all professional enough to not let that happen, but like Fitz, for example, is definitely a huge football fan.
Yeah, I mean, what time does the game start on I guess on Sunday would be more important, but
8 p.m. and it's 8 p.m. both days. So like I'm guessing that they would be fine. It's just whether they're going to go out on the beers on Wednesday night and not be ready for Thursday morning. So if there's any slow starters from like Fitz or Fleetwood, maybe just bet in play because they can probably pick it up. No, they'll get it done in time for Sunday. But a little wrinkle there for people that are not maybe across that. But the next Englishman I want to talk about, I think we're both on here, Ryan, is Aaron Rye, and that won't surprise anybody. The guy's he's been so consistent for so long now. It feels like every week we have to kind of look at Aaron Rye, and that surprises me when he plies his trade so much on the PGA Tour now. But even you go back to, he was second at Wentworth last year, ninth in Qatar, 10th at the Nedbank, 7th in Houston, 4th at the CJ Cup, 2nd at the Rocket Mortgage, obviously we had a good chance to win, and then 7th last week. It's so good. I mean, he's had a couple of missed cuts at the Corrales, the Valspar, not too worried, Phoenix. But like, generally speaking now, he seems to have a bit more of a floor than he's ever had before. When he comes back to a course and conditions that we know that he likes, obviously he's a former winner here. I guess the only one negative that I could think of is that he has missed the cut the 2 times it's been a co-sanctioned event, and he's been in decent form coming in as well. So we probably would have been talking about him in the same vein the last couple of years, and he's not quite done it. But I just think there's a different level with Aaron Rai right now, Ryan, where I feel really confident in him.
Yeah, there's a new consistency for sure. I think so. Last year he missed the cut on the number with just egregious iron play, and his iron play has been out of the world this year. I mean, he's one of the best in the world right now. Much like Tommy Fleetwood, he hits every single fairway. He's putting a lot better right now than he has. So that's always like the issue with Aaron Rai is, he can miss every 6-footer for 4 days, and then you're kind of screwed. Obviously won here back in 2020, wasn't the strongest field, but he did beat Tommy Fleetwood in the playoffs. So there's something there, but I'm not going to miss his win. Part of me hopes that he shoots 80 and misses the cut so I can not bet him for the rest of the year. But he is just playing awesome right now.
Yeah, and I think to your point, like the 2 times that he's missed the cut here over the last 2 years, he has been awful with his irons, and that's just not him. Like if it was something that he always does wrong, then I would be a little bit more concerned. But yeah, I think the way
he just doesn't get himself in trouble. He's going to hit every fairway, he's going to hit every green, so like he's not going to make an 8 anywhere. So
yeah, no, absolutely. Was there anyone else that is in this kind of range that you consider in this kind of 50-1? We've got the Brian Harmons, the Max Homers, the Sepp Strackers, I guess, I dare say.
Yeah, I mean, big number on Max Homa. I don't know if I'm quite ready there on links, and he just hasn't quite been the same this year. I think the only other name that I would mention here, because he has good course history, is Wyndham Clark. He's, out there between 45 and 55. He's obviously not playing that well, but has played well at this golf course, and he has the skill set where if he drives it well and putts well, he can kind of play anywhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, not much there. The only other, I'll just mention it because he showed up last week, Jordan Spieth. I'm not a Spieth backer at all, but if there was a kind of course, if the conditions get a little wonky and maybe there's a wave edge somewhere, like there's enough there that like if he was in the lead on Sunday, you wouldn't be surprised. So
I always think that links is a great leveler as well, and that you can just have a good week, right? Like on this golf course. Not to say that it's any easier at playing, but you get some kind of big fairways on some of the holes, and it might just be enough to kind of get him back in, and it leans into everything he's great at, right? His creativity and things like that. So do get the Jordan Spieth. Wyndham Clark, obviously massive final round at the Travellers, which is something to keep an eye on. I think sneakily Max Homa may be the most disappointing player of 2024, right? Like and
it's interesting because we have the President's Cup coming up, and he'll be on that team based on how he played at the Ryder Cup and how he's going to be picked sort of regardless. So he's got to get his butt in gear though.
It's just weird, right? Because he was like third in the Masters, and we think, okay, like normal service has resumed. He's now elevating his game to this next level, and he's just been really poor. I mean, he was 8th at the Wells Fargo, but other than that, it's just been really disappointing. And I don't know if it's just struggling with the newfound success. I don't know what it is. I mean, I don't know. I just think
newfound success, having a new baby, this stuff happens. These guys go through these ups and downs. So I'm sure he'll be back. But yeah, definitely a very disappointing year for Homa.
All these adult lives. So we've already talked about Tommy Fleetwood. We've already talked about Tom Kim. We're now going to talk about Thomas Detry. Both on him as well. It was quite funny because we sort of messaged each other this morning, sort of saying, here are our picks and getting ready for later on. And you mentioned that you were backing multiple Toms, obviously in the honour of coming on the show with me. Funnily enough, my middle name as well is Aaron. So far we've got 3 Toms and an Aaron. So maybe we're doing something right. Thomas Detry is 80-1. He was 100-1 earlier. I still like the 80. Yeah. This feels like a player, and I find myself getting into a trap with saying this about too many people, and almost stopped saying it, but this guy must win soon. Like, he is such a talent, and it's so consistent in the bigger events now. Is what's really eye catching, right? Is the 54-hole leader in Houston finishes second there. Played okay at the Zurich Classics, played well at the PGA Championship where he finished fourth. And again, you could look at it and go, okay, well, he kind of backdoored it a little bit on the, his 10th going into the final round, but he was inside the top 5 for the first 2 rounds as well at the PGA Championship. So he's been so solid. 14th at the US Open, he was second at the halfway stage. The argument is always going to be, Ryan, that he's not finished it off, but sometime it's going to happen.
Well, there's some karma here, because this is the place where he should have finished it off, if not for, I guess was it a car horn that went off? Something went off on one of his short putts, and he missed that. Obviously lost in that playoff with Fitz to Minwoo Lee, but and he played well at the PGA. But is Tom Detry the guy that you want to back in an event where minus 22 is going to win? No, probably not. And you certainly aren't going to see that this week. Sort of depending on what the conditions have in store for us, it could be a 8-under winner this week, right? And that feels much more up his alley. He's really played really consistently this year. Much like Tommy Fleetwood, he has dramatically improved his putting. I mean, was always like an okay putter, but consistently, one of the best putters on tour this year. And again, has some high-end results. 4th at the PGA, almost won in Houston, 4th at the AT&T, top 20 at Torrey Pines. Just playing really well. And of course, loves this golf course. He's made the cut every year he's played here. He has the 2nd. He was 10th in 2022. All good vibes for Tom Detry. So.
Yeah, and again, like people might look at it and go, like, he was 10th in the first year of it being co-sanctioned, never really contended, and then last year 42nd. But he opened with a 64, and he was in 3rd place. He then shot a 68 on Saturday. I just, like you, I think he's found a different level of his game. The putting's improved. Whether he just prefers putting on American-style golf courses as opposed to what he's done in Europe, that's potentially a thing. He went to college over there, so that's always a factor. But it doesn't really matter. The consistency and the positivity he must be feeling on the greens right now is going to be a huge factor. So excited to see what he does.
Yeah, for sure. And then, like you said, I got 100 to 1 on him. So, much worth that at triple digits. So
I feel like it's been outside the majors. I feel like it's been a while since we've seen 100 to 1 Thomas Detry.
Yeah, for sure.
Unless we saw it like the Memorial and I just didn't pay attention, but I'd probably had some giving up on him by then. But I know. Yeah, let's look at this range as well, just before we move on to some of our other picks. We've got last week's winner, Davis Thompson, is 66 to 1, playing really solidly. It's hard to kind of go again. What's your approach with new winners and like the following week? Are you just dead set against betting them the next week?
Not necessarily. It's just usually they slash the number. So I actually don't think that's a bad number on Thompson. I just, I doubt he has much links pedigree, if at all. Obviously, there's a lot going on for him. He wasn't even in these fields. Now he's coming over for this and for the Open. It doesn't bother me too much, other than they usually slashed in half the following week, which is too big of an adjustment most times. So
like the most recent ones I can think of where like Davis Riley very quickly went out into huge odds, and for good reason. It looks like he's completely off his game again. But like Taylor Pendriff looked a decent price the following week after he won. Yeah. Like I feel like we're getting a little bit more of this disbelief that these players can go on and do it so much. And I get that. It's been a lot of, I guess, first-time winners as opposed to Lucas Glover winning and winning again next week, right? But
I mean, if Thompson didn't win, right, he would be 125 in this field. So I don't think 66 is that bad, but it's not for me. That's for sure.
I get it. Billy Horschel. I'm just trying to see what he's done at this golf course, because I can't get this guy right. Like I was on a couple of his early wins, and I felt like he was just my guy, and then I've just never got it right since. He's been terrible here, which surprises me actually, because I feel like this was something that would be up his alley, but I guess he's never done that well at the Open Championship before or not. And the other one before we come on to our picks, Alex.
Yeah, I think So I think the other, I'll call it 4 because they're all sort of European tour guys in this range, and I got to a top 20 on Ryan Fox, but I wouldn't blame anybody for looking there. We talked about both of the Højgaard twins. They're both between 80 and 100. Like, that seems okay. especially like for placements. And then also EVR, like those types of players who have some links pedigree, have played well in Europe for years. They hit the ball a mile. Like if you want to take some long shots, especially on like placements, I would aim towards those guys.
Yeah, we both decided that we couldn't decide which Højgaard to go with. We've just gone with none, which is probably the great route. If Alex Noren was playing the way he played at the first half of 2024, I feel like he'd be one of the most popular bet players, right? Mm-hmm. He's lost missed last 3 of his 4 cuts, but I just feel like when he comes back onto a bit of familiar surroundings, DP World Tour, he's going to feel good about that. And one of the things I noticed, if you looked at last season's leaderboard, like there was 3 players that finished and tied third: Scotty Scheffler, David Lingmerth, and Benny Ann. Guys that have had career. I mean, Scheffler obviously won there, but then like Lingmerth and Benny Ann had career good finishes there. In second place, obviously outside of their wins. So I wonder whether the Memorial had anything. And the one time that Noren's played well over the last few weeks was at the Memorial. He finished 22nd. So I just wonder if there's still a little glimmer of hope that Noren can still do something. He's been so good for so long.
I've got a big ticket for next week, so if he wants to wait one more week, I have that same thought. I think I have a 175 for him next week. But I mean, he is, again, has always been one of the best players in Europe, one of the best links players out there. And it seemed like this year he was trending towards the win, and he's kind of hit a wall recently. But yeah, it wouldn't surprise me to see him contend this week at all.
Yeah, like I guess as a big ticket holder for next week, you just want a 18th place finish where he's
show me something.
Really good striking, and we just see how he goes in song next week.
Yeah, show me something.
I want to pick up on one name that you mentioned there. One of the DP World Tour regulars you grouped in is Eric Van Rooyen, and he's 100 to 1, and that's with Bet Rivers as well, where you can do the each way. I think he has found a bit of a flaw as well, which is not something Van Rooyen's ever had in his career, right? Like he's always been pretty volatile. I guess he had it on the DP World Tour before he went over, but he's just making cuts pretty consistently, and then he's sprinkling in these good finishes. 4th at the Myrtle Beach Classic, where he's second after 54 holes. 6th last time out at the Rocket Mortgage, where he's 3rd and 5th after rounds 2 and 3. He's been there or thereabouts. He was 6th after round 1 at the Canadian Open, 13th after round 2. So even when his final finishes are not great, he's had 2 or 3 good rounds going into the week. And when you look at his record here, he was 14th on debut, but he opened with 2 264s, and he was the 36th hole leader, 2nd going into the final round and finished 14th. Came back a year later, finished 6th with a final round 65. He did miss the cut in the first year of this being a co-sanctioned event, but then last year he made the cut, all thanks to a second round 63. So he opened 72, basically put himself in jeopardy of missing the cut again, bounced back, and then did nothing over the weekend. But it just feels, Ryan, like he's coming into this. You look at kind of like his OWGR and Data Golf and the runs that he was on the last couple of years coming into this. He had no confidence at all. Whereas now I feel like he's coming back. He can lean on that 63 shot here last year. He can lean on the first couple of appearances he had when it was a weaker field. I think 100 to 1 on Van Rooyen in more familiar surroundings is actually really positive.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. And I think earlier this year, especially, he kind of showed where that floor was, and he wasn't being priced appropriately. I've kind of written him off this year because I hit his win in Bermuda in the fall swing at I forget what it might have been 100 to 1. It was big. But anyways, I just said I don't have to bet him the rest of the year, but have certainly been playing him on DraftKings this year.
I think that was Mexico, right, when he won? And then
sorry, Mexico, yep.
Because then I bet him at the next Mexico event. So that was the Worldwide Technology, whatever they call it now.
Worldwide something or other, yep. Exactly.
He won that. And then he was massive for the Mexico Open again. And I was just like, he's playing really well. And obviously that's a Paspalum thing. He obviously likes playing those types of golf courses. But again, he's shown a links pedigree so far in his career. Big number, familiar surroundings. So I'm happy with that at 100 to 1. You've got yet again another Tom for us. It's the magic name this week, I guess.
It is, yeah. Tom Kibben. Kind of surprised we saw triple digits on him. I don't know. I don't follow the Race to Dubai rankings that closely, but he's got to be a top 5 player on the European Tour this year. Him, Soderberg, Guido, etc. Assume all those guys are going to be over and get their PGA Tour card. But he also just has shown a very high floor with a lot of upside recently. Kind of backdoor that playoff against Marcel Siem last week, but he was 6th at KLM, 8th European Open, another top 10 at ISPS Handa, 9th in South Africa, 4th at Qatar, just trending towards win number 2 for him. And I would expect that to come soon. Obviously from Northern Ireland, so plenty of links experience. He was 35th here last year, which is pretty encouraging because he is a much better player now than he was back then. So would not be surprised to see him up there. And if you're going to take chances on these sort of European Tour guys, you might as well aim at the top with him and Guido and Soderberg and guys who have played really well this season.
Yeah, I mean, look, you talk about being a much better player this time around. And I know he'd obviously won before he come here last year, but to your point, like there's just a consistency again. He was a mercurial talent and a young player that was showing his sort of potential really early on. Now he's a real hardened DP World Tour player. He is currently 8th in the standings in the race of Dubai, but ahead of him are Rory, Fleetwood, and Neiberg that won't take up one of those PGA Tour cards, right? And then you've got Soderberg, Hoshino, Svensson, and Guido above him. Sebastian Soderberg, what a player! It's just, I mean, I know you love him. It's been a brutal story for him the last few weeks, but yeah, back to McKibben. I mean, as you said, he's got that experience from last year here, the 35th place finish, 15th for the Alfred, 14th for the Alfred Dunhill Links was positive as well. So he's shown form in this type of event. I always think that these links players actually do play quite well in the desert as well, and he's done some good things over there. The Irish Challenge when he was on there, he's been really solid. I know it's a really lazy narrative to pick a Northern Irishman in a links event, but actually, what you've got to think about, Ryan, I guess, is this has been the betting favourite probably for the last 4 or 5 DP World Tour events, or at least in the top 2, and now you get 110 to 1.
Yeah, like you said, this is the type of event and type of golf course where I think he could excel. He kind of does everything well, but he drives it exceptionally well. Iron play has been out of this world, and I just really like the form that he's in. So
I'm guessing him and Ewan Ferguson are going to be the 2 players that people are going to look at the most. Obviously, he came back and won last week after a really tough spell. I can't remember exactly what it was that Ferguson had, but he had like an illness, right? And then he's slotted straight back into form, 27th at the KLM, 29th at the Italian Open, and then won this week. So
yeah, I mean, I think again, like if you just look at the last month and a half of sort of results and guys who are playing the best, like you could even throw Byrne into that. Like Byrne does not have the upside where he can win something like this, but you're looking for a guy at 101 who could top 20 this. Like Byrne has been great. We talked about Soderberg. You can go back to Guido. Talk about Hoshino. Talk about Sean Crocker. Talk about Rasmus and Jordan Smith. Like I'm not going to take shots on the very, very deep guys who we love, Matt Southgate, etc. But those guys, especially guys like Rasmus, like there's so much upside there and they're playing really well. Like a couple of those guys are going to be in the top 10 this week. You just got to get lucky and find them.
Well, that's the thing. Like when you look at the leaderboards that we've had here, we have had some strange sort of finishes, and you do get links anyway. But as I sort of referenced, Benny Ann, Lingmerth, Scheffler in those third. Well, Scheffler's obviously not a strange name, but in those tied third positions, JT Poston tied 6th. We wouldn't necessarily see him as a links guy, right? So we've had some really interesting results. Lee Hodges 12th. So you're going to get triple-digit players, and it's whether they're going to come from PGA Tour players coming over and not necessarily being expected to be links experts, or you're going to get these kind of level DP World Tour players. I mean, last year, for example, DP World Tour specifically, McIntyre 2nd, Nikolai Højgaard 6th, Grant Forrest 11th is probably the kind of players you're looking at.
Smith 12th, Ferguson 12th, and Sean Crocker 19th. So it's like and again, you don't have Scotty Scheffler here, you don't have Patrick Cantlay. Like it's a slightly weaker field. So yeah, you're going to see a handful of those guys. And I think, looking at Tom McKibben, Jordan Smith, Ewan Ferguson, again, like that's where I would go this week. Yeah,
and like also in the very first iteration of this, when it was a co-sanctioned event, Jamie Donaldson tied 6th. Like what a throwback! Rasmus Højgaard 10th, Dean Burmester and Thomas Detry 10th as well. Scrivener 16th. So yeah, you are going to get some of these names, and it is just a case of picking one out. I, unlike you, have gone for one of the long shot favourites, and look, I've tried to temper expectations on this guy, and I've not bet him as much as I have, and I did miss his win, which was really annoying. But Matteo Manassero he's now 500 to 1. He was 400 to 1 when I said to you earlier that I think he's going to buy 5 shots. It's just so he's never played this golf course is the one thing I would say, because he's not been playing well enough over the last few years to be in this field. But when you look at his form in this event back in the day, 3rd and 4th he's got in the Scottish Open. The 3rd come in 2016, the 4th in 2014, and then he backed that up with Open Championship performances as well. 13th in 2009 and 19th in 2014. The 13th came at Turnberry, which is another Scottish Links golf course as well. And then when you look deeper into that 19th at Hoylake, when he backed up the 4th here, or in this event, he was 67 first round at Hoylake, where he was 2nd behind Rory McIlroy on day 1. And then he shot a 68 on the Saturday as well, which again was the 2nd best round of the day. So he's clearly got some really good pedigree on this type of course. He is a little bit mercurial, I guess, at this stage of his career. Like, back in the day, like he would have been this kind of Ewan Ferguson, Tom McKibben player, right? That you would be looking at huge upside, really consistent. You know what you're getting with them. But he's been kind of like miscut or contending in this season. I mean, he was, the round 1 leader at the Indian Open, finished 5th there. Then he missed the cut in Japan, backed it straight up with a 23rd in China, finishes 13th in Sadao, misses the cut again. That wasn't the US Open, which is not a massive surprise. And then just recently, 7th at the KLM Open, 3rd going into the final round, 10th in his home Open at the Italian Open, and then 47th last week at the BMW. Not great last week, but it's a big driving golf course, so that's not necessarily too much of a worry. I just think the number-wise, the last 3 events, 12th, 10th, and 12th in strokes gained approach, 6th and 15th the weeks before that as well. Just the way he's hitting the ball, just that little links pedigree. I just thought 500 to 1 was absolutely ridiculous. And you think about someone that can just finish in that kind of top 6. I mean, he's 250 to 1 if you're getting an each way. But like someone that can just finish in that top 6, top 10, especially a DraftKings player, I think he's in that way. He's despite putting terribly the last 4 weeks, still finishing inside the top 10 on a couple of occasions.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's 501 for a reason, but like you said, you might as well choose a guy who's in form and who has won recently. My only concern with him is that he doesn't really have a skill, right? That he can lead the field in some week, right? I guess, iron play would be it, but he's obviously not good off the tee and he's not a good putter. So like for me, when I'm looking at a long shot, I would probably want a guy who bombs it and can putt. But again, he's 501, so whatever.
But that is the thing. Like before, he was having decent results, and I was like, I don't know how he's getting there. At least the last few weeks, he has found the irons, and that is what I'm going to lean on. I get streaky with that. The putter is a concern, but I'm just hoping that getting back on some Scottish greens is going to help him out, and it's maybe just a little bit of a hope that someone I like plays well. It's probably as simple as that.
Like I bet a 501 guy last week in Laurie Ruska, the Finnish kid, because he hits at 350 and can lead the league and off the tee. So he missed the cut because he can't putt also. It was fine.
My 401 shot Gunnar Weeb was he had 20 birdies last week, and he was great. So I mean, it didn't result in anything, but yeah, we shall see. Any sort of key takeaways when we talk about the golf course itself that you wanted to focus on?
No, I mean, it's par 70 from what I remember, right? So again, I guess you can knock par 5 scoring a bit. Obviously, par 4 scoring is going to be even more important. I'll probably look at par 3 stuff a little bit. I don't get too in the weeds on that, but just like quickly looking through the DP World Tour stats on par 4 scoring, like Bernd is up there, Connor Siem, Sebastian Soderberg, Thomas Detry, like Ewan Ferguson, Guido, Tom McKibben, like Rasmus, the guys who are playing the best, right? So I think, again, that just reinforces, like, I'm probably not going to take any long shots on the DP World guys, and kind of just hope the best players can play on this level. So let's go Toms.
Yeah, it's all of the Toms. I do think it is one of those events where you do just lean on the bigger guys, and if you get a shock, you get a shock. It's going to be so hard to pinpoint. Interesting you said about Bernd Wiesberger that he probably wouldn't be a player that you would see having the upside of winning this event. He is, I think, going to win this season, and it is just a matter of kind of is he good enough to win this kind of field? I mean, he's won the event at this golf course, but it was against Benjamin Hebert in a playoff as opposed to Rory.
And that was Benjamin Hebert missing 4-footers every hole. So it was. I'm pretty sure I bet him that week. I think in the playoff, maybe the first playoff hole, he had like a 4-footer to win or something and missed it. So
it's not bad feelings for you there. But when you look at the scalps, I guess, that Wiesberg has had, he has beaten Tommy Fleetwood in a playoff in China, Robert McIntyre in Denmark, Fitzpatrick in the Italian Open, Guido last time out by 5 strokes. So he can do Shane Lowry's beaten as well. He can do it. It's just we don't really see him do it time after time against PGA Tour field.
Yeah, I mean, we have, I think, like you said, there's stuff coming up, whether it's when they go to Denmark, right, or whether it's at Crans, right? That feels like a good place for Bernd Wiesberger, where you don't have to hit it that far. Like, he could definitely win something for sure.
Is he in the Olympics?
I doubt it, because it would be...
It'd be a terrible world ranking, right? Because
it's probably just Straka from Austria, unless Schwab got in, too.
Oh, no. It definitely can't be Schwab. That would be tough scenes for them. Hughes Lawton won his court case, right? He's in the Olympics after a bit of arguing back and forth.
Yeah, hey, I mean, that field will be fun, right? There's a lot going on there for sure.
I think we might cover that, actually. I think I'm quite looking forward to that.
I think it's just Sepp Straka from Austria, but yeah.
There we go. Let's talk a little bit of DraftKings just to finish us off here, and then we'll recap our picks.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned that Aberg might be someone that you would just start your lineups with. Is that the approach you're going to take? Just skip Rory and Xander and go to Aberg, or? Yeah,
I mean, I think so. Just sort of looking at it. I mean, I don't play that much. I'm always a guy who, regardless of pricing, I'm going to play the guys that I bet, that I feel confident in. Like, so, if I lock in Fleetwood, McKibben, Rye, Thomas Detry, things like that, I can fit Aberg, and I can't fit like Rory or anything. So I think that'll just make sense.
Just play all of the Toms. You're going to have a great. Yeah,
I mean, Tom McKibben is flat 7K. Thomas Detry is 200 more. Like, those are very fair prices for me.
Yeah, but you can start off. You can literally go the 4 Toms and Aaron Ryan, leave yourself with 8,100. So
perfect. Yeah, perfect. There you go.
Wyndham Clark, if you want to get a little bit interesting there, or
Benny. And again, you can grab one of the cheap Euro guys. I mean, Rasmus is under 7K. Jordan Smith is 6,600. Like, you can grab those guys pretty easily.
I think the best value we can give people is who are these cheap Euro guys that we can help people with. I mean, by rights, Soderberg should come back and play well, right? But it's just
6,400. Yeah, he's down there. I mean, I'm not a Justin Rose guy, but if you want some pedigree, he's at 6,500. I think Seamus Power. Yeah. Like, I don't know about Cam Davis and how his links pedigree is, but the guy just won and he's 6,200. That seems strange. Laurie Cantor, you can grab any. Guido is 6K. Like, you can grab any of these guys. They're very likely to make the cut. Yeah.
I mean, Hoshino played incredibly well, right? Like, he's 6K. Matthew Jordan, just about to say, I think 5'9".
Yeah, him. Matty Schmidt's been consistent. Callum Hill should have no problem playing links golf. Like, there's a lot down there. So, stars and scrubs most likely.
You mentioned Matthew Southgate. He is the Open qualifying legend. He just never misses Open qualifying. He is unbelievable. He's 5,600. Sean Crocker's down there, 5,500. That just feels like trouble for us. But
I mean, Rosner has been pretty solid. Svensson has been solid. Yeah, there's lots of options. Very dangerous this week.
I think that's almost the problem. You always want to go balanced to avoid just finding yourself down there and getting yourself into trouble. Who would be kind of like, do you think, the player that's most mispriced for you? That, like, you just feel like the chances of them actually being really important versus how cheap they are, I guess.
I mean, honestly, for me, it's probably Thomas Detry. He's at 7,200, and like, I don't think he's going to be overly popular, but I feel like he's playing better than the results even show, and obviously has done really well at this golf course. So he'd probably be my first guy in.
Yeah, I mean, a year ago I probably would have said Justin Rose just because I was infatuated with Justin Rose again. But
sure.
The skill level, I mean, he's got to be up there, right? And like sort of pedigree. I'm interested. A couple of players I haven't bet yet. Ben Griffin and Eric Cole are 2 players I basically just pigeonhole as the same player. I don't think they are in any way, shape, or form, but I forget who's who sometimes, which is probably a me problem more than anything else. But Eric Cole was 5th after 54 holes here last year.
Mm-hmm.
He's not going to show up because he finished 60th. But if you just look how he shot a final round 69. But he has found form again. You talk about people just like Tom Kim, where he showed a little bit of life with making cuts. I appreciate there's a massive difference between Tom Kim and Eric Cole. No one knows that more than me. But the 6th and 7th place finishes over the last couple of weeks, with the fact that he was 5th after 54 holes last year, suggests that Eric Cole could be an interesting player at 6,400.
Yeah, I was on him last week as well. He definitely seems to have found something. I don't know if it was if it was injury. I know that he recently got married towards the end of last year as well. Yeah, it'd be good to have him back. Like, I always worry about these guys and sort of as they come over, moving to links golf. But like, we saw Alex Smalley almost win here after he was in a very similar run. So yeah, I mean, look, there's going to be some random person up here, whether it's him, whether it's Cole, whether it's Griffin. So yeah, lots of ways you can go this week.
2022, we had Brandon Wu, Cameron Tringali, Alex Smalley, all inside the top 10.
That's when Cameron Tringali shot like 61 on Thursday, right? And then just obviously couldn't win because he can't win. But
because it's Cameron Tringali. And then last year, we had Benny Ann, David Lingworth, JT Poston, Lee Hodges, 12th. Like, there is nothing. It wouldn't surprise me in any way, shape, or form for Eric Cole or Ben Griffin to finish 12th or better.
Yep.
Given the form they're in.
No, for sure.
Any other sort of closing statements about the Scottish Open, or should we summarise our picks?
No, I'm good. Very excited for this one. Busy golf week. You got this one, the Barbasol. You got the ladies major. I think there's another senior major maybe. Corn Ferry is back. Liv is back. So.
Is it another senior major? Because then Blandy's just going to go for the hat trick, right?
Yeah. Sure. Well, he's playing Liv. He can't play. He got a Liv event this week. He didn't get a waiver, or like they don't give waivers for them to go. But I think it is because the books priced them up really early this morning, and I assume they only do that for majors. So
interesting. I can't believe Blandy's not in the Open Championship the way he's playing.
Why did he try and qualify? Or maybe there was some sort of restriction there as well. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Because I saw an article come out about why Poulter hasn't tried, and I haven't read it. So I guess maybe there's a bit of an explanation in there. Are you in the John Catlin Live Golf?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually bet it. So Hard Rock had it priced up about a week ago.
Yeah.
I bet all my guys a week ago. And I think there were some better numbers this morning on Catlin. I got a 65, I think, which is fine.
I think that's good. I think it opened with 66 over here this morning, maybe 70. So I think you're right to grab it because, you know, if he had actually won, he obviously lost in the playoff yesterday.
I got an early 100 on, I think you'll like this one. I got an early 100 last week on Sam Horsfield. So that's dropped a little bit. But again, like he seems to, I think it was injury. Was it injury?
Yeah.
Because he's back now. Almost one Live.
That's why Cantor was playing for.
That's why Cantor was playing. Yeah. So like that's a big number for a guy that if he's healthy and he's obviously playing well, qualified for the Open. So I took long shots there as well. And I think my lowest price guy was Patrick Reed at 28. Just I like that he's been in Europe a couple of weeks playing okay. You know.
Plus, he's just that guy that loves this type of test, right? Like it's scrappy.
Oh, Valderrama is perfect for him. Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of interest, I think, in John Rahm this week. The one thing I would say is that I think John Rahm played Valderrama okay in spite of the fact that he absolutely hates it, as opposed to it being a good golf course for him. Like he was just so talented. He had a good couple of rounds there. Not a good golf course for him, and not in the way he's been playing. So anyone hoping for a miracle this week to lead him into, I mean, obviously, if he does play well, his price is going to crash for next week, but I wouldn't expect it so much. So I think that's probably the storyline, I guess, for Valderrama, with Sergio obviously trying to get another win. Yeah, no, I mean, look, if Rahm and Cam Smith are up there, you know, like so be it. Like that would not surprise me. But no, I went long shots. I have Reed, Catlin, Horsfield, and Chikara. That's what I took. So perfect. Yeah, I like it because some bonus picks there. Right, let's get to summarising our picks for the Scottish Open. So I have gone with Tom Kim at 25-1, Aaron Wright at 55-1, Thomas Detry at 80-1, Eric Van Rooyen at 100-1, and then Matteo Manacero at 500-1. Ryan, just before we come on to summarise your picks, just a shout out to the audio listeners out there. If you are not following on YouTube, but you want to follow on the DP World Tour Picks and Bets show on the Mayo Media Network. Then you can find us on Apple, Spotify, rate and review wherever you are. It's DP World Tour Picks and Bets under the Mix show there on the Mayo Media Network. Ryan, your picks for the Scottish Open?
Yeah, lots of overlap here. So we got Tommy Fleetwood 28 to 1 in the win only. Tom Kim 35 to 1 win only. Aaron Rai each way at 50 to 1. Thomas Detry at 100 to 1, and Tom McKibben 100 to 1 each way. So again, Team Tom this week, and with a little Aaron Rai sprinkled in there.
The only thing that could, I guess the worst case scenario for us is that Tom Hoagie wins. Because it will be literally the only Tom we haven't covered.
Not too worried about that outcome, but yes.
But yes, I really like Tom Hoagie as an individual. So I don't want to wish anything ill on him, but if he wins this week, I'll be disappointed. Sure. Ryan, thank you as ever. I think we will potentially come back and do an Olympic show to be confirmed. But yes, Sky obviously, as we know, is off for the next month or so. So it is going to be me and Ryan stepping in, doing some shows. We will see how our schedules align and see what events we want to attack. But as Ryan said earlier, that field's lining up really nicely for the Olympics. And I feel like we can give some good value on that with the European Tour regulars, or DP World Tour regulars, as I should say.
And it's a golf course we know very well. So
exactly that. Last point before I let you get out here, Ryan. Apart from Alex Noren, any early leans for the Open that you're kind of keeping your eye out for this week?
So the only two long shots that I put out early, probably 2 months ago, I have Louis at 150 and then Noren 175. But I've been building the parlay cards pretty heavily. I am very heavily invested in Rory, John Rahm, Tyrrell Hatton. Nice. I think I have a Shane Lowry in there, but very little. So Rory, Rahm, and Hatton for me would be best possible outcomes.
I like the Hatton shout, I must admit, and I'm a sucker for Tony Finau again. I wish he was playing this week, but he's been playing extraordinary golf, and I think he's got a good chance again next week. Ryan, thank you very much. Let you get out of here. That was the DP World Tour Picks and Bets again. Thank you.
All right, best of luck. Thanks, Tom.